hacker we were talking about.
Okay, so good morning. It's Kim from Kim and Rachel from Sugar and Spice. So morning, Rachel.
Hello.
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 So we wanted to come and talk about personalities today because it's one of our key areas. So when we focus on with our mind and body reset, we really focus on the mindset side, as we feel that that really is the link to unlocking people making those choices for themselves when it comes to their nutrition choices, their exercise choices, and just their general self-care. I don't know about you, Rachel, but a lot of the time when I get clients come to me, so I predominantly work with ladies like between 30 to 45 to 50 age bracket. There'll be at stages in their lives where they generally feel quite lost and they don't really know who they are. That's probably like the one key thing that I get told quite often. Is that something that you find?
Yeah, I definitely find that. I'm just going to shut my door. Hold on a sec. Yeah, I definitely find that. And I think from my own personal perspective, I would say that when it comes down to personality, it doesn't really change as you go through life. You always have those same core underlying beliefs and values, but what happens is I think you don't necessarily identify with your side of your personalities properly when you're younger. So you can kind of almost, I found sort of in my kind of late teens, early 20s, going into my early 30s, I blended in very well. Some people refer to me as kind of a social chameleon because I could adapt and change to any situation, even if I wasn't particularly comfortable with it. So I think when I then discovered later on what my true personality was, it kind of clicked a lot of things into place that I did when I was younger that I didn't necessarily feel aligned to, and it gave me an explanation as to why I didn't feel aligned to it or comfortable in certain situations. So I think that's probably where a lot of women are at. You kind of get to a stage where lifestyle changes.
I think life throws you into situations, isn't it? Like,
Because,
relationships,
the older you get, the more
children.
life experience you get, the more trauma you can pick up. There's all sorts of things that life throws at us as we get older. So I believe for me it was a really important thing to understand certain elements of my personality and why that then has an impact on some of my behaviours.
It's weird though, because I know that it's funny, you as you say, like, you're a chameleon, so you want to fit in. Like, the biggest thing for us as human beings is that we want to be accepted and we want to fit in. So we go with the crowd a lot of the time, and there's like this internal struggle between actually you don't feel aligned to that, as you said. So you can be in situations, and as you say, like, you're a chameleon, so you can kind of come out of that, but some people really struggle with that. And I think for a long time I could never understand why people did things differently, because obviously I thought that we were all, I know it sounds naive, that we're all human beings, that we would all do things the same. I'm like, well, why don't you think like me? It always seemed to like blow my mind. But I also found that like a lot of women felt like a lot of disconnect, like, as you say. I think because we get pulled along in life, it can be in situations like relationships, or it can be in, especially with looking after a child. I find particularly with women that we actually kind of put so much focus and care on looking after them, looking after the family, that you suddenly go from 20s, 30s, 40s out the other side, and you've actually completely disconnected from who you are. And often that's searching for that behavior. So obviously we get women coming to us because they want to lose weight, they want to feel better, they want to get away from this feeling that they have, but they can't really get to where they're going to go. They think that losing that weight, getting on the scales, being a different size, being a different shape is suddenly going to make them feel better. But actually, what I've discovered, especially working with my clients, is actually once they understand who they are and they like who they are, because we're told by society how we should be, and obviously we're also unique, and that's the beautiful thing. But there's this pain point between being unique and that fear of, if you're seen, you're not accepted. And then that comes down to vulnerability of putting yourself out there, just to go, this is who I am, like me or dislike me. but it's a real pain point for a lot of people because you go through life wanting to be accepted and wanting to be enough. And that's kind of what I find a lot with my clients. I'm like, just seconds. No, so moving on from that then, so why is, what I was the same as you actually. So I actually, so I did, first of all, I think it was one at work. Have you ever done the personality tests at work? So they often in personality tests and work, they want to understand how you fit into a business so they can optimize where you are. And the first time I did it, it was with a company, and I came out, funnily enough, as an introvert. And I'll explain how, like, if you, depending on which methodologies you go with, so say for instance that one was similar to Myers-Briggs, and we'll talk about introversion and extroversion in a moment, but actually it came out I was an introvert, but I was also at that time really low in myself. I wasn't happy in the life situation that I was at, so actually my dominant function switched, but it wasn't who I truly was. So once I started to, I was never quite sure, like a lot of people tend to not be sure about their purpose, and actually one of our key fundamental needs in life is to have purpose, is to feel that we're on this planet to do something meaningful. And often people, if you don't have a vocation, can tend to like fall into work that they don't necessarily feel aligned to. So that's why sometimes these personality tests are quite good. But at the time, I think I was working in corporate, and I was working in like a head office and a lot of attention to detail, and it wasn't really great, I guess, when they did the personality test and the job that I was doing, that I probably wasn't the best. But it was that first stepping stone. But it wasn't until I found Myers-Briggs before I did my coaching course. And so Myers-Briggs, it's based on this idea that there's 16 different personality types. And so you've got, I'll go through that in a minute actually. So you've got 16 different personality types. So if you looked at a tribe, you have different people for different functions within the tribe to get things done. There's never anyone that is great at creating an idea and finishing it. There's never anyone that is a great people person yet can really focus on attention to detail. People's brains, you have a natural talent and gift in certain areas, but then in other areas it's just not your strength and your skill set. And that's why we need these diverse range of people to be able to be the starter, the process person, and the finisher. So if you're like me, and I realized that I was more of a creator, I really struggled with the process side and the attention to detail. So you probably realize that when you read my posts sometimes, I'm like, oh yeah, I missed that. And it's really interesting just starting to understand yourself, because sometimes you can really feel at conflict. So it wasn't until I did the Myers-Briggs test that actually I started to look into more into it, and I felt like a massive relief, because how I think, I tend to go, most people go like a straight linear way to an answer, but I go all around the houses, get stuck around the block going, oh, that's a really interesting idea, because I just love to explore, learn, and understand people. So like you were saying, like in terms of being a chameleon and things like that, I think that's because of the type of personality that we are, that we've got those soft skills. But then it's, if you don't understand the fact that there's that flip side to other people, that actually they do struggle with understanding and reading people, you can get a real disconnect, because everybody focuses and works in different ways. And that's why sometimes you feel more aligned to certain people that you meet rather than others, because you can't feel that connection. But for me, like when I came out as an ENFP in Myers-Briggs. So Myers-Briggs, there are these two, so it kind of gets discredited in some ways sometimes. So some people were like, no, it's absolutely loads of rubbish. But then I think when you speak to a lot of people and it actually aligns to them, I think, you know, it's been around for a long time, and it's used within a lot of workplaces. But, you know, we also point people to the DISC test that Tony Robbins, it's quite a common test that's used in workplaces to pick out your dominant skill sets and strengths. But with the Myers-Briggs, I came out as an ENFP. So that's it means extroverted. So they come in order as well. So you've got, and then you've got the flip side. So you can either be in your dominant side, so that's when you're in your most natural flow, but actually sometimes the order can reverse. So if you actually feel misaligned with yourself, there's kind of like a flip side, like if you're in flow, you'll work with your best strengths. If you're out of flow, you will be in, I can't remember if they're called like non-dominant or something like that, but it is the fact that your processes, other areas get flipped forwards first, so you work for a different process order. So rather than this natural flow of ENFP, it will be more like the reverse letters, and that's actually like your weaker versions. So so yeah, so ENFP, so you're an I, aren't you? You're an
Yes.
INFP.
Yeah.
So there's often this confusion between what an extroverted person and an introverted person is. Like if you just see if you ask a general population person what that would mean, it would mean that an extrovert would be someone that is really, really loud, in your face, a performer. You know, you generally hear that they're so extrovert, they're really, really loud, and you're like, well, that's not actually true. And the same as with an introvert, there's always like this negative connotation with an introvert person in some places, that, you know, they're really quiet, they sit in their rooms, they don't talk to anybody. And actually that's such a misconception and a misunderstanding. First of all, that you can be on the scale. So an ENFP is actually, I'm kind of 60-40, so 60% of me is an extrovert. But that's all that literally means, is how you process information, and it's where you feel energy and where you feel drained. So I get, as an extrovert, I get my energy from being around people. It's more about the processing center of it all. So I process like I need art, I need color. Like, you should generally, we get tarred with a brush that we like unicorns and pugs, but when I'm sat on a unicorn and pug bedspread, I can't really argue that. But yeah, it's all about color, it's about senses. So, you know, you get energy from that, but at the same time, because I'm kind of 50-50, I can equally just as well be on my own. But for too long, then my energy is going to drain. Whereas like if you're an introvert on that scale, you know, you're going to find being around lots of people or having to give yourself more so tiring and draining.
Yeah.
So you probably need more time on your own, or more time to reflect, or more time in that way on your own to be with yourself.
Yeah,
Is that
absolutely.
something you'd say that like is more aligned to you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I will know that because I suffer with overwhelm quite quickly, so I can take on lots of work and I can do it, I can manage it quite well, and I'm very able to work on my own and motivate myself. But on the flip side of that is I can become overwhelmed and be like, oh, I've taken on too much and I'll need to retract away and take some time out. And that's definitely, you know, part of my personality is massively I have such a great ability to reflect about situations. And yeah, so I think, you know, one thing to take from it though is that we don't focus on just the one personality test, we look at both of them, because like you say, it's not, you know, it's not just take one test and this is who you are. It's more to do with pointing out things that perhaps you are not consciously aware of about your personality.
Yeah,
So
it's just exploring. That's all it is, isn't it? So you can't just take one, and I can't just take one and go, oh, I'm an ENFP forever, because actually what you find is, what I found was really interesting when I did, was the discovery test that I did. I think it was discovery with someone. It was very similar to the DISC. It's like you're people might have done this before, like you're a red person, a green person, a yellow person, or a green person, but you can obviously be within the spectrum of that. So I think I was more like a yellowy green. At least it wasn't like a yellowy blue, because that doesn't make a good color. That makes like a pooey color. But anyway, sorry, so gross. That's part of my personality, by the way. Just why did she talk like this? It's because of my personality, don't you know? But I can't even remember my point with that. No, so yeah, so interestingly, it's I can't even remember where I went with that one because I was getting confused with the colours. But no, what's interesting about it is, again, it's picking up your where you truly excel, and it's thinking about, that's what it's doing. So it's how your brain processes things. So when we were talking about the energy line, so I came out as predominantly green, which means I'm a carer and a supporter. So that kind of, like, if you were to look at Myers-Briggs, that would be like an N person, because if you're an N person, someone comes and naturally talks to you and offloads to you, and you sense, it's all about your senses and sensing like the subtle cues. So we're a people person because you can naturally empathize, you can read the situation clearer, you can kind of see through what's not being said, and you can also pick up on their needs quite naturally, which is probably why we quite like exploring people, because we like to understand what's going on there. But from your end perspective, you know, with the science, it makes a lot of sense. So what you've got is you've got a natural energy line. So certain things will drain you if you have to go above that line. So what I mean by that, so your natural lines, your naturally energy levels are here. So if it goes above it, it's something that comes naturally to you. So, but if you go below that, it means it takes you, if you're in a job position that is wrong for you and you have to do that job predominantly, and you're having to push your energy levels to meet that, you're going to be shattered. So the really funny thing is they say you have like a work personality and your natural personality. Yeah. So they did mine, and everybody's colours were slightly different. So it meant that in the workplace, they bring more of that aspect of themselves out to perform that function.
Yeah.
Mine were the same. So what you see is what you get, which is quite funny. But what was interesting is, so like if you're a red color, you're quite an assertive person. You're going to tend to be the leader. You're going to give me answers now. You're going to tell me exactly where you are. Don't give me any waffly, airy BS. Just tell me what you're going to do, when you're going to do it. Done. So they tend to be the leaders. But if you're a green person, if you're a people person like me, we massively disconnect. We don't get on. So you're opposite sometimes. So if you've got someone that's quite abrupt, I'm going to find that really, really hard to get on with them. And then you've got like your blues, it's like your more analytical people. They're going to be doing like they're going to love Excel sheets, they're going to love attention to detail, they're going to love order. So it tends to be people within law enforcement roles, solicitors, anything where you're going to require a lot of attention to detail. Green is more like your supportive people, and then your yellows are more like your ideas people, creative people. So say for instance,
salespeople as well tend to be those.
Yeah, salespeople. But if you're, say for instance, in the role that I was in, and I was getting really exhausted by it, and I didn't quite know why it wasn't fulfilling my needs, it was because when we looked at the scale, so my natural energy line, for me to really, so the two ones that I'm the lowest in is a red, so to be assertive and direct to the point, which makes a lot of sense, and attention to detail. But my job was very much, I had to be attention to detail. So at the end of the day, I was shattered. So that's when people say you enjoy, are you in, so whatever job do you do, when are you in flow, it doesn't take you a lot of energy, those are going to be the best types of jobs for you. But when you're in fulfillment and you're in your flow and in your right energy and understanding your personality and the needs that you have of your personality, it can really help you then to start feel more fulfilled in your roles. But then also that helps you understand yourself and give you more purpose, which then leads to how you care for yourself, because actually you start to like your life, you start to like who you are, you like, you know, you'll become competent and confident in the areas of your life that you're doing. So that's why it's actually really, I can't emphasize how much important it is to understand yourself, because also in social situations, in friendships, you know, why are you the person that they or people always come to, or why do you come up with a different solution, or, you know, and I think with the type of personality, so like being a ENFP myself, I've never really, for a female, it's quite difficult if you don't follow the norm of, you know, house, marriage, babies, kids. So most of my friends now have children, and that's fantastic, but it's something that I don't necessarily feel aligned to. And it makes sense, the type of personality that I am is actually, I didn't realize until I did the test that actually a biggest area of my life that I was missing was freedom and travel and seeing places and cultures, and that was something that obviously if I had children and a family I couldn't do. So whenever I was in relationships, I felt like I felt like I wasn't fulfilling who I was supposed to be. And so when I started to live more in the true functions that I am, so I've come back to being a fitness instructor and doing this with you and talking to people and connecting with people, that actually my introversion side flipped to extroversion. So the great thing is with your tests, so whatever tests you read, question it and evaluate it. So it makes me laugh when people go, "That isn't me," and I'm like, okay, great. So the opposite of that is, so often the challenges is people battle with just accepting that that's a part of who they are, and they just straight away, dependent on where you are in your life and your journey, just go to the negative straight away. Oh, so I'm not an organized person, so that's why I'm rubbish at my job. Like, cool your jets a little bit, come back to it. Let's go and look at the strengths. So, it's hard when you've got soft skills, like a people person, because I struggled with the fact of how can you apply that to a career. I know that sounds silly, but always, like, we're drummed in at school that your vocation is doctor, policeman, like all these roles. But they perform, like, if you think as a child, when you would go to like a play village and something, and the roles that they would give children then, they were told how to be. Whereas actually we have a lot of different skills that you can bring to a workplace, and some job, unless you see a job, you don't know it exists. So you have to start to think, like, what is my talent? What have I always aligned with, especially even as a child? Like, ask your parents, if you're fortunate to have parents or caregivers or people that have known you from a young age, and think, what did you used to do? But often, like, so it's funny, so when I was younger, talking about this introversion and extroversion and why you change yourself, was at school. I remember my parents going to visit my teachers, and they were like, "Oh, Kimberly, she's a very quiet child." Not even kidding you, they asked to check that they were talking about the right child.
Wow, really?
It's like, cheers, parents.
But you weren't aligned to school at all.
I was really quiet. I was really shy for a long time. I repressed this, like, the talkative side of myself, the ability to talk to other people. Real friends would see it, but I almost felt like I was trapped inside a shy person's body. So I was a real introvert at school, but actually I wasn't, because I was always stuck in the art room, just painting and being on my own. And because I have that ability to be on my own, like, because I am a bit half and half, but actually the biggest part of myself when I was growing up as a child was that actually I really enjoyed people, like being with people, because I was different. That's when my limiting beliefs came in, and my fear of being who I was, and this whole idea of this fear of needing to be accepted, that actually for a long time, unless you understand yourself, you repress those elements and aspects of yourself. So you're missing out on the best elements of yourself. So when it comes to these tests, sometimes it can just be reaffirming that actually, no, you're not going crazy. The reason why you're feeling misaligned to who you are is because you are actually living misaligned to who you are. And sometimes you can be like a total contradiction of a person. Sorry, my camera's gone. And that's what people don't understand. Why can I be this way and this way? And it's like, well, your brain's you're gonna learn skills as well as you go through life. So say, for instance, one of my blind spots is, as an ENFP, is that we don't really like doing life admin, like, so sorting out your bills and stuff like that. But certain skills you have to work harder at, and all these tests do is actually highlight where I'd see them as blind spots. And if you can outsource those jobs to people, then do that, because those people are going to need you for different aspects of their life. It's the same as, like, if people can come and talk to us, we're that person that they need to offload to, and it doesn't drain us. It doesn't drain me for people to come and talk to me about their problems at all. I want to be able to listen and be able to give them that space to talk. So I just found it a massive relief when I found my personality type, because I did how I process things. So you can have like a really flighty conversation with me, I can flip from different conversation levels, but actually for me, I can really talk on a deep level about the universe or philosophy, or those kind of things are what really bring out my side of the personality best. So it just helps you to understand that it's good to be you, how you can bring your gifts to the world, and then if when you read it and you're like, no, that's not me, but you keep doing tests and it's coming up, then I would like to question, actually there's something else going on. Are you afraid to actually step into being that person? If you spent so many years not being the person actually you could be, from the fear of being rejected, or just be not liking it because you spent so many years. A big thing that we hear all the time is that we're not enough, and that always comes as a thread and a theme wherever you listen to different speakers and coaches. The common theme that comes down to any one of us is that we want acceptance, we want safety, we want love, and if we step against the norm of thinking in different ways, that we're bad and we're going to get rejected. But actually, if you look through periods of time and through history, the people that we love the most are the most unique.
They are.
So I found it really helpful, and I think that it's a really important process for our ladies to go through on that journey, is just to start to, it's almost connecting to your inner child, that little person that you were as a kid. So like, you've got children, so you can see like how their minds work and how they process their world. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, it is really interesting, and I think it's just another tool, isn't it, to add on to that journey of self-discovery, really. So it's definitely one that is important, I think, to do when you're on the journey of self-care and self-help, definitely, because you need to understand parts of your personality that perhaps you're not quite aware of, because then you can make changes, like you say, to align a little bit more with your life. And sometimes for some people, there's been people that I've worked with, and it pulls into question relationships and jobs and the way that they're living their current lives. So it can be pretty powerful, and it can pull out some quite big, harsh truths about the way that you're living your life that's scary to change, and it's scary to explore sometimes as well. So it can be a really powerful tool from that perspective as well.
Yeah, I think you're right. You've got to be at the place that you're ready to change. So when I did the personality test at my workplace, I knew I was unhappy, but I thought that's because I never really knew what I wanted to do for a career fully, or what I aligned to. But actually, I wasn't brave enough to look, to stand on my own 2 feet and be who I truly am. But actually, the relationship at the time that I was in, there was nothing wrong with my partner. It's just that we weren't aligned. I was running by the narrative of society, thinking that I needed to have a partner, I needed to be in a job, I needed to be working on that track to getting married and having babies, and that wasn't the route for me. And I think the problem with this change is the fear of uncertainty. And as human beings, again, it comes back to that need of wanting to feel safe, and it's having that trust and faith. If you're just starting to learn about yourself, if you take that leap off the edge, that you're certain that you have trust and faith that you will be okay.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest leap with all of this, is this work. And I feel that, like, we find when clients initially come to us for, say, for instance, nutrition or diet, and we start with the mindset stuff, it confuses them. But we know that until you start to build trust and faith in making your own decisions, we literally educate, don't we? At the end of the day, we give you the education and the tools, because that stuff's never going to change. But until you have trust and faith in yourself that you can implement it and you can see a change. Or the biggest thing for women is that they're going to lose control of their bodies if they go against what they've done for so many years. It's scary, and that's what it is. It's down to fear, but it's having self-confidence, and often you lack confidence because, again, it goes back to knowing yourself. And if you've repressed for so long aspects of your personality, the fact that you had the confidence to turn around and go, actually, I don't want to people please anymore, I don't want to go to parties, and it drained me. I was exactly the same, because that's where people go, well, you're an extrovert, and I'm like, yeah, but big crowds really overwhelm me. I hate big crowds, and I hate going to parties. It sounds really bad. I don't like going to parties where I don't know the people, or at least someone. I think that's quite natural and normal, but I'm not like, I don't want to be the center of the show. I'd rather just be with my friends having a chat, as opposed to having to do that, because it's exhausting. And it's nice that you can finally turn around once you feel confident in yourself to actually go, no, that's not me. The only good thing is, though, Rachel, that when you hit perimenopause, because your estrogen levels drop, it's our estrogen levels that actually kind of make us, well, from a physiological, like, primal sense, is that women put up with a lot and people please for the fact of it's just the survival of our babies. Even if you don't have babies, it's the estrogen that's running through your system. So, like, funnily enough, when you get older, like, my nan used to be quite cantankerous, which I used to love and be quite direct. She just don't care anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that time.
You get to a point where you know, it's not caring, but it's just you're not living by the constraints of what society has been telling you to do, really, isn't it? And yeah.
Exactly, but I just don't want to I don't want to have to wait until I'm in my 70s to finally not care what people think of me. I want to be able to be able to live my life and live aligned to who I am now. So yeah, but I think the personality test works really well for people when they are searching for their purpose, and they're probably like their career path. It gives them that, you know, a lot of people, when they do these personality tests, they do change their career. Like you, I can't work in a corporate office or give me Excel sheets. I will quite happily give that job out to somebody else that loves it. But it can really help you to start to go onto that path, because often people will start to feel depressed or feel low, or go into their other functions. So say, for instance, you know, with so you've got the IN, and then you've got, so you've got thinking, feeling, judging and perceiving. So those other two, so you can tell people either process more through logic or they process more through feeling. So you can normally tell that with people's terminology that they say. So often I write with I feel, whereas you might have, say, for instance, Jake, who's a T, go I think a lot more. So you can often tell, like, the dominant function. So you're either led more by your emotions and your senses that way, or you're led more by your thought and your logic, which is often why people find it difficult to understand. But actually, from the perspective of me and you, actually having those opposite functions, so having someone that's more logical is quite good, because it balances you out. And that's the same. Yeah, I need someone like that right now. But then finally, you've got judging and perceiving. So people see that judging is bad, but all the things that, like, say, for instance, an S, a T and a J, so sensing, thinking and judging, all it means is you take physical evidence in the world and you piece it together logically. That's literally all it means, is you take logic and you take fact and you take black and white. Whereas intuitive, feeling, perceiving person takes all the grey areas in between. The blind spot of a perceiver is that sometimes how we perceive things through our own eyes can be skewed. A lot of the time, like, it's like our gut instinct and we are right, but sometimes if our perceiving is off, our perceptions are off, it can cause us real blind sides. And again, it's just understanding. If you understand that side of your personality, you might just be a little less rash in future to make a decision. You might take your time a little bit more, and that's all it means.
Yeah, makes total sense, doesn't it? So yeah, it is good to do a deep dive into these things, but they're quite good, aren't they? So when you actually do run your personality test, especially the Myers-Briggs one, you do get quite a comprehensive report with it as well, and with the DISC as well. So with the Tony Robbins one, you get really good reports to back up. So I think it's really good to take the time to actually really read through them and try and identify areas of your personality that you think, you don't have to go, that is me 100% to a T, but you can
No.
pick out the bits that jump out to you.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, you can that. I think that was a point that I was going to go back to. When you answer the questions, you have to be completely honest. And sometimes it's actually hard to be honest with ourselves on, we'd like to be this person, but are we actually as well? You've got that kind of side of things. But I think generally it is quite accurate. And yeah, the DISC report is actually quite helpful in terms of, especially more the career aspect of where you would fit within either a business or if you could be a business yourself. But then you can ask yourself the questions. If you've done those jobs, so say for instance, it's saying you'd be great as self-employed, but you hated it, it could actually be that maybe you didn't know your need. It goes further to like knowing your needs and your values and a certain boundary. So that's why our work that we do is multi-layered. It's not just about one thing, but it is, I found it massively helpful. And I think when you start to talk to people, it just plants seeds, and then they kind of start to come back to it when they're ready. Because as you say, Rachel, it's so tied to change, because when we have women come to us, you're going to have people in the different stages of change models. Some people will just think of it, but some people really, often you hit a point in your life where you can't go back, and you have to change. And that's often like, you've got like the theory of the thermostat, when the thermostat has come too far one way, so you just try and bring yourself back to a new level and norm.
Yeah, I think it's really important. And I think what I find quite sad is that people have often allowed themselves to get to such a breaking point, either with health, the startings of disease, mental health issues that they've perhaps not or been afraid to kind of explore and get help for. And so you're seeing people really at that end stage of problems, and that's what's sad. People are only going to make change when things get really bad. And I think part of what we're trying to do with the Mind and Body Reset in particular is to allow people to be able to plant those seeds and make those changes before it gets to that stage of physically having to do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It really does. Unfortunately, it normally is to that point, as you say, that people break. I mean, I recently did a talk on my own experience with mental health, and I'm not ashamed of it. But in all honesty, my issue, and I've seen it quite a few times with other people, is because I wasn't living aligned to myself. And actually that was, I know if I start to feel low in myself, I had let it go on for a long time, which is what led to a depressive state, which for anybody that's going through it, I 100% understand it's the worst place to be. But it was because I didn't know who I was, and I didn't know what was going on, which is probably what led me to do a lot of personal development stuff. Is I was completely out of my alignment. But I wasn't. The problem is if you live so far in fear of taking action, that's what that's what steals your energy and steals your life. And as much as it's scary, I would far rather take action than let that steal the person that you are, because that often I tend to feel, well, it was for me, that I was just too afraid to make change. But then obviously, like from the lifestyle perspective, it was that.
Yeah, but it is a scary thing to do, isn't it? Because any change is going to be hard. So yeah, you've been really brave, and I think it's the foundations of, it's the root cause, isn't it? It's we always look to, okay, that someone is in this particular state, whether it's a state of disease or state of mental health conditions. There's that kind of level, isn't there? And what tends to happen is that you're overloading it and you're trying to put plasters on it by, I don't know, medications, or just keeping toxic relationships going. All of those things kind of layer on top, and you've got to look underneath it. You've got to do those deep dives to really find out the root cause, because until you get to that, it's never going to get better. And I think that's what you were able to do so beautifully through all of your mindset work and exploring coaching, is that you could peel back those layers and actually get right down to that root cause. And now you have a toolkit, don't you, to be able to,
Yeah, it
if
does.
you get to that state again, you've got things that you can pull on to help make you better again.
Yeah, no, I have the ability to question now and understand, and understanding is actually the biggest, understanding and awareness is the biggest tools and the biggest gift you can give to yourself, because then you can manage it. It's basically emotional fitness, which is what we've spoken about in private before. And yeah, it really does make a difference. But I think the great thing about me and you, and I think we've naturally done it in our own practice when we were working separately with our clients, but now it's me and you come together. It's even that we finish each other's sentences, which cracks me up. But it's the fact that people have been quite resistant to the mindset, because it you don't want to like sell anything that's painful, that is going to hurt. But I'll be honest, there was a lot of stuff there, and there's still going to be, and it's painful, especially when it's very raw. So if you're finding that you're crying a lot or you're overwhelmed a lot, it's rather than running away from it and us wanting to hug the hell out of them and make them feel better, it's like, okay, let's own these tears. Emotion is a positive thing. It's an outlet. It's like, the best thing that I saw in my coaching course was, rather, my coach didn't rescue anyone. She stopped, oh, my camera's gone, and asked, what are the tears about? Tell me, what are the tears? What are you crying about? And actually allowed them to go, hang on a minute, eyes go back, because of this. And the power of the talking side of things is once you say something out loud, something pops out, and often it reverts back to childhood. And it does, as much as we joke about counselling and going, oh, in my childhood this happened. Counselling is great because it gives you that awareness, but it doesn't sometimes help you move forwards. But yeah, it's about being able to go, well, what is that about? And the thing is with the journey, even with the personality that you're seeing resistance, they're there at very first starting stages, because you go through such a long period of feeling different, not liking yourself. Even if songs make you cry, is that you're at such a place of confusion as to who you are and acceptance that it causes a lot of pain. And just by getting someone to say these truths, and you look at it and you're saying it out loud, you go, oh my god, that's not me that's saying that. That's 4-year-old me when something happened, if that makes sense. And now seeing it through the eyes of an adult, you can see your parents and what they've been through. You've been an adult, you're like, you can go, that's not true. And then it just starts to unravel. It's an amazing journey. And I know we kind of veer off topic about personality, but it's not, because it's self-awareness and self-acceptance of who you are. If there's 16 different types of people and you're all on a scale of that 16 type, there is more than 16 types of people. It's that times 1% of every 100%. That's so many different types of people and how they think. And then if you're not in owning that, you're going to be in your more your negative side of your person, or we'll just say negative side of your personality. So I procrastinate if I'm in my negative personality, because it's a stress reliever. I will be more introverted. I will be more grumpy. My poor housemate, she has to suffer that. I know that those aspects, but once you know about them, you can decide how you're going to manage it, and not through eating. I have been on there, so I can talk about this with the ladies, because I have been there. It's not from binge eating, and it's not from control over exercise. It's not from being in relationships that aren't good for you. And it's a part of life and it's part of a journey, but unless you're willing to do the personal development work, I honestly don't see that the changes that anyone's going to make is sustaining. If you see Weight Watchers and everything like that, when people go to these things, when you go to Weight Watchers and you want to lose weight, it's because you're wanting to escape how you feel about yourself. When I get to that weight, I'm going to be happy. No, you're not. Like, as much as you might be when you've gotten that scales and you put yourself through that rigorous regime, like the day after you reach that, what next?
And I think I watched a really good program, and this guy it was all talking about how the brain works and how you have to facilitate change. And it was really interesting because every day we have thousands and thousands and thousands of thoughts, but those thoughts are the same thoughts every day. So we're waking up and we're telling ourselves the same thing every day and every day. And so because we're creating the same thoughts, we're doing the same behaviors, we're doing the same things, and we never make a change.
No.
So to be able to make that change, you have to change one thought, and then two thoughts, and then three thoughts. And the more thoughts you change, the more you're able to change, and you can come out of that cycle. So we do the same things, and we create the same behaviors, and we create the same day, and we create the same life every single day until we say stop and start to make those changes. But that's scary, isn't it?
And the scary thing is about like 80%, if not more, of those thoughts are negative.
Absolutely.
But I see negative self-thoughts. I really like the thought of with the negative self-thoughts. It's actually like you're a risk assessor. So if you think in an insurance company.
When you're going back to primal times, and when we were all living in caves, those negative thoughts were actually our saving thoughts. We had to be alert, we had to be aware, we had to risk assess, we had to make sure that what would happen if the enemy's going to attack and come and take our food or kill our families. It was very raw. So we've got that still within our DNA.
And it's be the same because if you're different, you'll get rejected. But if you think within like a tribe, you had like a shaman, you had a doctor, you had the hunters, you had the nurturers. So actually those sides of your personality had to shine through so that you would help the population move forward or your tribe survive. But the thing is that you have, I could talk forever about it, but like your thoughts and your thought patterns are programmed as a child. If your children were brought up in a different place in the world, they would have different thought patterns and beliefs than they would with you. How I was brought, all we know as children is that we need to be safe, we need to be loved, and we need to have trust. And how you show that as an adult to each other, your child replicates. So if you were a child and your parent was like, well done Rachel, you've been a really good girl today, here, have some chocolate, you're going to relate good behavior, you're having to perform for good behavior, and you get rewarded with something sweet. So it's a neurological like patterning in your brain that now goes to when you feel sad or low, you have to do a pleasing behavior to get love, and secondly you're going to get a reward for it. It's just patterning. And as you say, like with rewiring thoughts, one of the most powerful forces what we do is like the whole I am enough with Marissa Peer. And it's not just down to Marissa Peer, like it's come out through all different coaches and studies that it ultimately comes down to the fact that we don't feel good enough. And that one resounding thought of saying to yourself daily I am enough can actually, you don't have to suddenly say like I love myself implicitly, because perhaps that's just so alien to you to even look at yourself and be like, yeah, I love myself, because we in society see that as conceited, we see that as bad, we see that as negative, we see that as self-obsessed. But actually, being selfish, self-loving yourself is a really positive thing. Perhaps we start with that small step of I am enough, and we do have the ability to rewire our brain. And it's what you tell yourself, it responds, definitely 100%. If you say it's the words that we use that are so powerful. If you say I am enough compared to if you say I'm not enough, instantly you can feel an internal change just from the words that you use. It's I find it fascinating.
Stuff.
It is, but we digress. But No, definitely. I think the personality thing was funny. And then it really made me laugh when you said what you were, because when you start to, I explore it quite a lot. So I love to see what personality types I get on with best. And I can always tell which like personality types people are just really just by how I get along with them. I'm just like, oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. But we all have unique gifts, bar the fact of using my laptop and working that properly. But yeah, we do. But the thing is like, why would you want to be the same as everybody else?
It's so boring, wouldn't it?
Yeah, you'd wear the same uniform, have the same personality, have the same jokes. It just wouldn't work. It's the colourful tapestry of life, and I think it's just the fact it's getting away from this people pleasing syndrome, and this being, there's different aspects which we can talk on another time, but like this idea of like being a people pleaser, like being a perfectionist, always being the doer. We put so many identities and pressures on ourselves just for the pure fact that we want to feel enough.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's personality. So an INFP and an ENFP is who's bringing you our Sugar and Spice Wellbeing method. But it's interesting. I thought it was a really great learning experience from us, because for us, the personality side and exploring it was quite a natural thing to do. But that's because probably of how our brains explore. And then if you get, like, we've got ISs in our group, and it's not natural to do that kind of internal exploration, because it's like, tell me literally what I am in a bullet point format so I can understand it and so I can process it. So it's literally just their personality and how their brains operate. That's all it is. So you have to learn. That's why we've got different learning styles. That's how we learn differently. That's how we process our world differently. Just because our brain will see things in different ways, I cannot for the life of me understand the rules of a game to save my life. My brain just doesn't allow it. It drives me mad. It really winds me up. Like, please, I want to understand these sports. I'm a fitness person, and I'm like, I don't understand games. They're like, you don't understand sport? I'm like, no,
not what we're aligned to, eh?
I can't get it. But yeah, no, I thought it was really interesting just to see. It's very easy to take for granted what skills you have. So when it comes to a career, often people go, well, everybody can do that. Everybody can be a people person. Trust me, they can't. They genuinely can't, and that's not a bad thing. I can't do what they can do. But often, if we don't align to the culturescape of career paths, we feel that we haven't got a skill and we haven't got a talent.
It's come back to purpose again, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's one of our fundamental needs as human beings. It's like, as much as we need clothing, we need food, we need water. Actually, for a human being to have purpose, to have a reason for being on this planet, and that doesn't actually sometimes have to be your career. It can just be what you bring to friendships, relationships, and people. But we're so hung up in the culturescape of how we grow up, that again we're forcing to live aligned to something that actually was set out by people, loads and loads of dead people that used to live that way. Like, if lockdown is teaching us anything, that we can be anything, we can carve a future for whatever we want. We're gonna, the strongest people that survive, that Darwin says, isn't the strongest, it's the most adaptive. So you've got a great opportunity now to go against what society has laid out of doing the 9 till 5. Do we have to go to work and do a 9 till 5? People are working from home now, from their office. They can go out at lunchtime. They could, they can fit more around their lifestyle. You can create your own business. Fitness has gone online. Like, there's so many opportunities, and it might be those opportunities for those people to shine, because the normal jobs that we used to have, like our parents had, aren't going to be there anymore. So I just find it's an exciting opportunity, but I think a lot of people will feel quite scared and quite overwhelmed. The main thing is that with anything, even like with the law of attraction, visualization, all of these things, the biggest thing that I've seen is that you can visualize until the cows come home, and it's a powerful tool. You can write a list, you can do a mind map, and just pray that the universe is going to bring it to you. But unless you have the courage to act on it, unless you have the courage to act on being who you are and standing in that and taking those small steps every day, that's when you're going to see change. But people think it has to be such a giant leap. When people start a new business, they compare themselves to people that are 5 or 6 years down the line. Their journey is different. But it's just this, it's the fear again. But it comes from action, and it comes from bravery. And that's when, like, when you're coming from your personality, it's understanding actually, what do I want to be brave about? I'd say. So yeah, so I think the personality side, I really love. I love seeing what the ladies are. I think it's really exciting, and also just to see that there's so many different people out there that think about different things. And the funny thing is often 9 times out of 10 you are aligned to who you are. It's just little bits and little tweaks that can make your life better.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, so that's personality, Rachel. Is there anything we want to add on this one? Because we kind of like veered left and right, but that again, that's how I am. But
yeah, go with this. No, I think we've covered everything, and I think again, it's just saying that if people have got questions around it, just to use the group to post those questions, and yeah, you'll be on hand to answer.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is, just take time to read the pamphlet. It's saying stop taking everything so personal. I know it's hard to do because it's a personality test, but stop taking it so personally in terms of seeing yourself as bad when you read the negative points. I don't see them as negative. I see them as just a side of your personality. You've got light and dark. So you're good at one thing, but actually you can acquire skills on the areas that you're not particularly feel that you're confident in. Get the skills then. You're teachable. There's nothing you can't teach yourself, especially in this day and age. Everything's accessible to us. So, or hire someone to do it. I fully plan, when I have more money one day, that someone will do my Excel sheets for me.
Definitely. Admin.
Oh, I can't stand it, bloody Microsoft. I'm not even going to get started on Microsoft, but yeah. No Excel sheets, but yeah. Cool. Yeah, so hopefully that's helped. And it's just, we do understand that some people's brains aren't going to focus like work in the same way that ours do with it all. So just give yourself some time and give yourself a bit of kindness and just let it digest. But you don't have to understand it straight away either, do you? Because I've come back to those tests so many times. You've got an Enneagram. There's lots of different tests that you can try, but if you do the Myers-Briggs 3 or 4 times and it's coming out the same, most likely that's your personality. But just saying. But fabulous. I'm sure we will touch on more topics soon. So is there anything else that you would like to add, Rachel?
No, all good here, thank you.
Fabulous. Well, thank you very much. We hope you enjoy our ramblings, and yeah, head over to Sugar and Spice if you want any help, because we are there to help you. Thank you.